Nickelodeon has done it again. Courtesy of the Loud House's Instagram, if Lincoln were drawn in different Nickelodeon styles. Thinking emoji. I assume they're thinking about how they'll spend the money they saved by settling for Timmy Turner in cheap cosplay and Zim wearing Lincoln's skin like a morph suit, instead of actually doing what the description promised. And it's not just Nick belching this nonsense out either. Disney and Cartoon Network both took a punt at style swapping and only fared marginally better. We'll go into those as well, but this just looks like Nick traced all their other pro tags, except for SpongeBob for some reason. It's a fish. Why is it a fish? What's with the fish? If Lincoln Loud was drawn in the SpongeBob art style, he'd obviously be a crab.
Coming to you from beautiful downtown Fortitude Valley, it's the Harry Gold Show, with your host, Harry Gold.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the program. Not long ago, I made a video redrawing a rather subpar SpongeBob illustration that Nickelodeon plastered across its various social medias. Fool that I was, I thought the decidedly nonplussed audience reaction might prompt them to try a little harder next time. Think again, stupid! Shortly after the video went up, a bunch of folks on Twitter kindly alerted me to this. Really just taking a beating, aren't you? It's nice to know that when people see low-quality art, it's my name that comes to mind. Well, Nick, seeing as you clearly can't figure out how to draw your characters in other art styles, I'm only too happy to explain it to you. But first, this episode of The Harry Gold Show was brought to you by Atlas VPN.
Oh, hello. You like using your computer as much as I like using mine. Then what you need is... Who are you?
My name's Malcolm Ware, but my friends call me Mal.
If you want to stop malware from getting into your computer, what you need is Atlas VPN.
Hey, what's the big deal?
The big deal is Atlas VPN Premium now costs just $1.83 per month plus 3 months extra with a 30-day money-back guarantee. You can take this deal by clicking the link in the video description below. Atlas VPN blocks malicious links and lets you know if someone is trying to steal your data. It also keeps your web searches private, so they can't get their hands on your information either. From outside the US, some streaming services like Criterion aren't even accessible. But with Atlas VPN, I can switch my location and watch Charlie Chaplin and Nosferatu to my heart's content. With the ability to find the best deals while shopping safely online and protect unlimited devices, including your phone, this is the best VPN deal on the market. Take the big deal now by clicking the link in the video description below. Be quick now, it's a limited time offer.
Let's start at the top. At its core, an art style is a set of patterns, recurring traits across multiple works by the same person or group. Traits like, on a scale of Avatar to Adventure Time, how poorly drawn are their hands? How hideously disproportionate are their colossal angular heads? And how easily snappable do their ankles look? Once these features have been identified, the next step is to brutally cram them into some unsuspecting slob from another universe, all the while keeping in mind the single most important factor in the whole process: recognizability. After all, Nick's not just here for kicks and participation certificates. They're in it for those sweet, sweet clicks. We're appealing to an audience that needs to see this multiversal mangle of copyright infringement and say,
"Well, kick my head and call me football. That sure is clearly recognizable character A and easily identifiable art style B. Retweet."
Both character and style are equally important in this equation, and ideally both should be so face-slappingly self-evident that a label saying what's what is just icing on the old Cinnabon. But where does the style end and the character begin? The answer is the awful tummy, and that stands for the Oreo-flavored turducken method. Much as a turducken is a turkey stuffed with a duck stuffed with a chicken, the design is essentially made up of 3 layers: the structural, the superficial, and the treatment. But while the first and third layer are all about the new style, that creamy middle should focus on the original character. See? Oreo flavored. Get it? No? Alright, let me explain. The structure is made up of the proportions and shapes underlying the design, like you'd see in the early steps of those How to Draw Manga Like a 13-Year-Old Girl books. These should prioritize the new art style. So rather than matching to the real Lincoln Loud's potato on a pencil physique, instead we want what's appropriate for a kid in the world of Hey Arnold. Like eyes almost as far apart from one another as the Ice Age babies or the live-action Little Mermaids. Then come the superficial elements, your biggest ally in keeping the original character recognizable. Imagine surface-level details that'd make up a Lincoln Halloween costume. Not that kind of costume. Stuff like his peroxide mop and cauliflower cowlick, or the brand integration colored polo and aggressive incisors. Conversely, his towering eyes and slightly deflated beach ball shaped head are more structural. If a new art style is geometrically amenable to these shapes, excellent, but the superficial bits should help it weather some pretty drastic alterations. I mean, put Mario's head on anyone and you'll still know who it's supposed to be. Then finally, the treatment. You want the end product to match all the new style's finishing touches, from line quality to shading to preferred cologne. Ooh, is that sandalwood? Here's an example of why that's important. Some of you requested that I also take a crack at fixing this Velma style swap that Cartoon Network inflicted upon the world. Ignoring that disaster area in the middle for the time being, it's actually pretty good, but the treatment is where it comes up short. In fact, sometimes styles will have more than one. This stock graphic of Velma is certainly on model, but someone put actual effort into the line work and shading. That's just not the Saturday morning cartoon way. Even more peculiar, the artist insisted on maintaining the same tonal over-enthusiasm throughout, even though they've probably had week-old RC Cola that wasn't as flat as these styles. The myriad of Eds are much more indecisive in line width, and Dexter's contours should have more ink and heft than a trailer park pool party. Meanwhile, the Adventure Times and Garden Walls are about as wafer-thin and unwaveringly uniform as a North Korean marching band. Now, not every style is easily compatible with every character. This is why frame of reference is also of paramount importance. A design might run into strife if the art style has no analogous characters that viewers can be picturing in their head and drawing comparisons to. Say you tried to jam Rick and Morty into an animal-centric style like Bluey's, where God only knows what a human should look like. There's a good shot you'd just end up bewildering everyone. So then, let's look at Lincoln Loud in the Avatar style.
Which Avatar? The overrated one. Well, that doesn't narrow it down. The one with the lousy movie. It's still not helping. What did they call the sequel? I don't remember. The something of something. Oh, you're useless.
From a purist point of view, this is technically correct. However, Avatar's bootleg anime aesthetic is inextricably linked to the show's universe in people's imagination, and despite being largely inspired by Asia, they haven't yet invented the sweatshops for sneakers and jeans there. This can create a visual disconnect that hinders recognition. So sometimes, instead of treating this as a purely stylistic hypothetical, it's useful to reimagine the character as if they were actually a part of the new universe as well. SpongeBob presents us with an even thornier situation. There's only a small, eclectic contingent of human-adjacent freaks in Bikini Bottom, and none of them are kids, or even conspicuously shaped like a lollipop. Makes recognizability kind of a tough sell. Shifting gears back to reimagination though, the non-supernatural normal people in the SBCU are all sea critters, so you could argue that Lincoln would be just as likely to appear in this show as an octopus, or as a crab, or even as a sea sponge. That said, Nickelodeon's original scrawlings did depict him as SpongeBob's most common species, in true stopped clock fashion, the generic background fish. Disney also encountered these issues when they tried to muscle in on the style swappery. As far as I could find though, the Mouse House just did the one and dipped. I think they made the smartest call. Pootie's already a pretty dang abysmal character to work with. There's barely anything there to change in the first place. But this famine of features ain't the half of it. Because for all I know, that could be exactly the way Kim Possible or Recess would have rendered this character. But who the heck can tell? There aren't any famous birds to compare with in those shows. Even if you dug up some obscure one-off bit player to use as reference, no one in the audience would be able to put it together. And yet, there is one here that's immediately recognizable, even without seeing the label. And lo and behold, it's DuckTales, a show about birds. Say it with me now. Frame of reference. Oh boy, one hand has 6 fingers, somehow the foot that's closer to the camera is smaller. Money changed hands for this. It bought someone a McGriddle that they did not earn. I'll be honest with you here, I'm no CGI guy. If this was my job, I'd tell them I can't do it. Give me a different art style for this slot, preferably a softball, like Making Fiends or something. And frankly, that's what this artist should have done. There were folks in the comments last time saying we were too hard on the illustrator, but multiple people in this process are just not doing their job. Speed Tracer here failed to inform their boss that this is beyond them. Nick made him do it anyway, and then let it go live when it's clearly not ready for prime time. Heck, it's not even ready for DeviantArt. And I wouldn't make a video like this about a fan artist giving it their best shot. But animation networks are a different kettle of horses. These aren't kids doodling for the fun of it, and they're certainly not doing their best. This is a marketing tool. They put out a neat picture, fans engage with it, and the network gets some publicity. But they have to hold up their end of the bargain. They don't get to crank out 10th-rate mush and expect to be rewarded. This ain't Mama's fridge, bucko. Remember, there are corpulent corporations with Scrooge McDuck-esque coffers masterminding these things. I don't think it's unreasonable to feel shortchanged. If they don't want to dedicate the resources necessary to get it right, that's perfectly fine. Just don't do this in the first place. But after all that, let's say Nick had a gun to my head and I had to come up with something for Jimmy Neutron. I guess I'd use a basic modeling app to rough out the head and cobble the rest together in Photoshop. And God in heaven forgive me for what I've done. I'm not happy with this, but I'd still put it up against theirs any day. Here's something peculiar. I also heard from a number of people peevish about miscreants mishandling the Powerpuff Girls art style, which struck me as curious, seeing as I never even mentioned it. I wasn't aware that Powerpuff pastiches were that much of a thing, though evidently a thing they most certainly are. Ketanji Brown Jackson? Seriously, who approved these? The beef is simply this. Whenever anyone claims to draw in the PPG style, Cartoon Network included, whatever they come out with always looks freshly stewed in Chemical X. But Buttercup & Co. might just be the world's only toons to not be drawn in their own show's art style. The other Townsville folks have digits and noses and other such apparently superfluous twaddle. So an accurate style swap really shouldn't look very much like the girls at all. That said, it's not hard to see why someone would opt for Powerpuffication. Coming back to that recognizability I've been harping about so much, the girls themselves are the most identifiable thing in the show. Though I'm pretty confident in the accuracy of my estimations, if people don't see those disgusting swollen eyeballs, they just won't think Powerpuff Girls. Now then Dexter provides a different challenge again. I talked about shows being too dissimilar, but this is more like trying to draw Peter Griffin in the style of American Dad. Aesthetically, Dex and the Puffs are nigh on interchangeable, so anything I do would be grasping at straws harder than a hangry sea turtle. Rocket Power, that show that everyone remembers and cares about. I don't recall one hand twice the size of the other being part of the art style though. One final thing a lot of you were saying in the comments last time was along the lines of, I normally hate fixing art, but this is okay. It took me quite by surprise, I'd never even made this connection. For anyone unaware, there's a divisive phenomenon out in the vapid wastelands of Twitter where some folks will take a piece of art, often fan-made, and try to bring it in line with their own ideological fixations by changing something like skin color or body type, and then they'll declare, I fixed it. Now, I myself have done several videos at this point claiming in the title to be fixing art of some kind. I like using the term because it's succinct, provocative, and works better than calling the video, I looked at Nickelodeon's drawings and respectfully drew something pretty similar, except hopefully I made mine somewhat more accurate to what the original Instagram caption said. No offense. Catchy. Usually this show's pretty jokey anyway, but even with slightly more serious efforts like this one, I think it's completely different to the other art-fixing nonsense. Those people are trying to show off their moral superiority while I'm just flexing on megacorporations, thus making me morally superior. See? Completely different. And that is another completed set of style swaps. Well, Nick, I told you to hit me up if you needed something like this last time, and clearly you didn't listen. But hey, Disney, Cartoon Network, you know where to find me. Though on second thoughts, that might not be a good thing. Let's play a game. I'll draw someone famous, then 3 people that guess who it is in the comments will get a shout out in the next episode. If your guess for the caricature last time was English actor Toby Jones, You are unquestionably correct. Today's rule from the Wheel of Winners is the 3 correct guesses containing the most vowels. To break a tie, we'll count their names as well. Yaniv Nadir and Danny Nolan both had 31 vowels each. Counting their names, Yaniv came first with 35 and Danny second with 34. Then a bit of epicness went a long way, taking his 29 vowels to 3rd place. Well done everyone, thanks for playing. This week's subject has an upper lip so long that if you'd started traversing it right after watching James Cameron's Avatar on opening day, you'd be just in time to catch a screening of the sequel once you reached the other end. Their cheekbones are so high they make the cost of groceries look reasonable, and their eyes are small and narrow enough to be mistaken at a glance for the mind of the average Hollywood executive. Now who could this be? If you know who that was, let us know in the comments, and don't forget to swap that subscribe button from black to grey. But this has been the Harry Gold Show, so until next time, stay safe, and God bless.